Welcome to the PropTech podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents and property owners, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. The aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. This week is one for commercial agents and property owners in the industrial sector, with an interview with Georgie Fenwicke from Tell Frankie, a new property and facilities maintenance PropTech that focuses on the unique needs of industrial property. Now, Tell Frankie is a New Zealand PropTech, and we seem to have a few of those at the moment. And Georgie has a fascinating background, having worked in consulting at Deloitte New Zealand, and then for 4 years after that at Uber in the UK in its early days. Tell Frankie was born during the pandemic, but has got some impressive runs on the board already because of the unique nature of industrial property and its importance to us, not just as an asset class, but in the role that our industrial buildings play in keeping our economies running. So here to tell us more, Georgie Fenwicke, welcome to the PropTech podcast.
Thank you very much for having me today.
No, it's great. Now, before we start, just tell me, is the name of your PropTech Tell Frankie or just Frankie?
So it's a combination of the two.
Right.
So it's Frankie Industrious Property Software, because we look after industrial properties. And then the whole idea is that property managers can tell Frankie about the issue that they've got, or tenants can tell Frankie about the issue that they've got, and it becomes kind of a key behaviour.
Okay, cool. So what's the Tell Frankie elevator pitch?
Yeah, so we build tools to maintain industrial properties, to largely prevent breakdowns and to deploy OPEX and CAPEX over time. We really focus on communications with contractors to make sure that everyone's on the same page with the works that are scheduled in and all of the reactive breakdown issues that come up as well. It can be pretty hectic on a day-to-day basis in a warehouse or logistics centre. Yeah,
I guess because when you have an industrial property is almost a workhorse, isn't it? Like, it's not just sort of, oh, look, the aircon's not working and that's a bit inconvenient. Yeah. This is stuff that can actually really affect production.
Totally. If there's a roof leak that leaks into some core medical products or food, or if there's a roller door breakdown that prevents throughput out of an industrial property, it can massively affect revenues as well as obviously the cost of repairs as well.
Okay. So why do industrial buildings need their own special maintenance software? Like, how big is this as a problem?
Yeah, so it's been really cool sort of developing out with our core customers here in New Zealand. Industrial properties, just as we've just talked about, require maintenance for operational reasons. And it's not just the one property that's usually maintained and looked after by an industrial property team. A network of warehouses usually service either a supply chain or a supply chain business or a manufacturing one. And so what we aim to do is, and they're usually pretty spread out. So across networks in Australia, you might have a warehouse in Sydney, Brisbane, and maybe the Gold Coast as well. And so for property managers, it's all about centralising the operations in the one place, and then helping them to deploy OPEX and CAPEX over time as well.
Right. So I imagine you don't really want to be repairing an industrial building after something's gone wrong. Like, ideally, we want to get to this place where we're being a bit more proactive about recognising when things are going to wear out or break down.
Absolutely, and that's where we're focused as a company. So, to give you a bit of an insight into the customer experience, we'll work with the property team to set up a network of properties, and then we'll go into actually working with their contractors to say, okay, what are the preventative works that are taking place, and where are the potential gaps? We've seen sort of major issues from plumbing and drainage issues and attenuation tanks. where a company's kind of lost a few 100,000 litres of water through leaks and repairs and all of that sort of thing, right through to those roller door and roof repairs as well. So getting everyone on the same page and then actually focusing on a preventative schedule is where we always start.
Right. So there's the damage that something going wrong in a building can do to the produce or whatever's happening inside that building. There's also the damage, I guess, or the time and cost that a broken building or an issue inside a building can cause, not just to that factory or that industrial site, but others in the supply chain. And then there's also, I guess, the unnecessary costs that damage could be doing in the running of that building in terms of the resources that it's using.
Totally. All of those are our problem space, and we're just really excited about the blue ocean opportunity here, because it's all about starting to rethink existing ways of doing things, and that's the exciting part about going in and working with our customers, is actually there's an opportunity to experiment that they haven't had before because they've just been so busy doing the reactive kind of fixing.
So how did you get into it, Georgie? What's your background?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So I started out at Deloitte in the consulting team here in New Zealand, and I started and very very quickly after starting, I got sent out to one of the largest construction companies here in New Zealand to look at a number of problems that they were facing across supply chain and transport networks and that sort of thing. So I got this amazing opportunity to be a fly on the wall and understand the building products and construction industry here in New Zealand. And then a couple of years after doing that, I moved over to the UK, where I started in the operations team for Uber, and was sort of in the company there relatively early, and saw just how quickly an operational business in the transport space can grow out.
So what's your background? What's your training in?
Training is in business and arts, actually.
Okay, cool. So how big a problem is it? Like, how much money does Australia and New Zealand industry lose because of downtime or issues with the premises?
So that's a huge question, and one that we can only really talk to at the moment in terms of the facilities management market. Right. We're still learning all sorts of different things about the problem, and it's a hard one to define because a lot of this stuff doesn't get very much attention. Yeah. It just goes into OPEX or surprise CapEx budgets and that sort of, or unplanned CapEx budgets.
Yeah, surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that businesses kind of have to deal with as an unforeseen cost. Yeah. But certainly in the industrial space in New Zealand, it's about a $700 million market for facilities management, and then it's a few billion in Australia.
Yeah, I bet. And that's just facilities management of industrial. That's not that's anyone else out there. That's just the industrial sector. Okay, awesome. And now, let's hear a word from our sponsors. For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, Direct Connect are there to support your real estate business with competitive rewards for every successful connection, plus an industry-leading rewards program. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers will be connected on the day they move in. Direct Connect offers a range of market-leading suppliers, and Direct Connect has now made it even easier than ever to send connections, directly integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. So in just a few clicks while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. How does your technology work?
So our technology is a cloud application that's accessible via mobile phones and desktop. And what we'll do is we'll sit down with the property team of the network that we're working with, understand how many properties they've got, and who their underlying contractor base is.
Yep.
And then we'll go ahead and work through all of the existing preventative works that they've got across that portfolio of properties. And we'll work really closely with the property managers or operations managers on site to essentially get that schedule set up, and then send out and communicate really closely with the contractors who are coming to do those repairs. And then it becomes a workflow tool once you've got the property network set up. And so it's all about scheduling or responding to reactive issues that come through, and working with the property teams to send those out over time. Now, we're really passionate about communication and making sure that people have the right information at each stage of the process. So there are all sorts of things, from the ability to attach docs, complete inspections, see where the issue is on the floor plan with photos and that sort of thing. So we're pretty bullish on bringing all of that information to both the contractor and to the property manager as well.
And this is one of the things we see in commercial and industrial, I'm assuming, too, isn't it? We're building buildings, or we've got a whole lot of established buildings out there, and the asset data that we've got around the life cycle or the life stage and the condition that they're in, it's not necessarily very up to date or in any kind of real order.
Totally. And it's a really interesting thing for when it comes to handing over a property, whether it's at a sale point or whether it's an operational handover where there's been a change in the team, somebody's been promoted, moving to a different city, and they have to hand over all of this knowledge. Yeah. And a lot of it's in paper folders, spreadsheets, calendar reminders, and email. Yeah. And so what Frankie aims to do is really enable a team to pass the ball to themselves in future or to somebody else in the business that says, cool, this is what's happened in the past, this is the plan for the future, and anyone can jump into the tool, whether it be a board member, the head of property, the CEO, or the property teams themselves, to actually understand and get a transparent view of what the plan is.
What's the reaction been from your clients? Like, do you get any objections, or do people just go, "Oh my God, thank God you're here. Here's my factory, please sort it out."
Totally. Well, as you can imagine, it's all sorts of different responses. Yeah. Over the last few months, it's been a really, really cool response. We've just been building like crazy from a product perspective. Mm-hmm. There is a bit of a time commitment just to get to essentially get the data in there and get everyone aligned. But I think it offers the most amazing opportunity at the same time to kind of rethink operations, as we were talking about before, and say, cool, we've got this planned, what's the gap, and all of that sort of thing. And hey, it can be there are peaks and troughs in an industrial property as you go through seasonality and that sort of thing. And if it's not right, if the decision's not right for right now, we can come back in 3 to 6 months and have do the setup then.
Right. Okay. I guess you're working with surveyors and things to capture the information that's inside their reports into your software, or are you?
Absolutely. Quantity surveying firms are brilliant to work with, particularly after they've done a condition assessment or they've just completed a building. It's the perfect opportunity to jump in and say, okay, what's the schedule like to maintain the condition, or actually set a bit of a capex budget at the same time. There's an element to say, once you've broken down a building, say your key risk areas are plumbing and drainage, roofing, and the foundations. And those are the areas that you'd see the greatest unexpected cost. It's about saying, okay, well, what's the best OPEX and CAPEX profile for us to look at over the next 5 years, and then work with the finance team to say, okay, how do we finance this, and what are our options here?
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So did you play a role in making industrial buildings smarter?
I see that as a massive future opportunity. The idea of IoT is just such an interesting one. I sort of have a bit of background working, obviously, for Uber and workflow and transport tech, but also spent a year kind of working with a computer vision team and understanding kind of machine learning and AI and that sort of thing. The IoT space, I think, is potentially being overused at the moment. But I think once we work out where the real use cases are in preventing building leaks or understanding where they are early on or predicting the breakdown of an HVAC unit, I think those sorts of things at scale can really change the way that cities and industrial parks operate.
Okay, fantastic. So how old is Tell Frankie? How long have you been around for?
Yeah, so we launched in February of last year.
Oh, wow.
We incorporated right in the depths of about 2 or 3 weeks before New Zealand went into full COVID lockdown.
Fantastic.
So we're just over a year old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what's your growth trajectory been like? Like, how big are you now, or give us something that will help us understand how many clients you've got, or, whatever.
Absolutely. So we've been in market in the industrial space for about 8 months of that time. We took a bit of a breather just while COVID was disrupting the world globally. And we're actively hiring in tech and ops. We're very, in New Zealand, there's this huge industrial space in Auckland, the Waikato and Tauranga called the Golden Triangle. And we're onboarding customers all the time in those areas, and then have some really strong growth aspirations to move into Australia and the US in the next 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic. And so are your clients, that you said before, they're property and facilities managers, or they're property owners, or a mix of both? Who's driving? Who's saying, "Oh God, we need this"?
Yeah, so a mix of those, a mix of all of those profiles. So we're seeing property managers, construction teams, and organisations with a facilities function. We're seeing food safety and mechanical engineering firms reach out, just in terms of the compliance associated with processing lines.
Okay, yep,
sort of thing as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking to Wayne Herbert from AI Assets recently, and he was saying too that, with what the work that they do, which is sort of identifying the assets and pulling them into a cloud-based element so that they can then, I guess, hand over to tech like yours to say, all right, well, here's all the data, now go and do what you've got to do with it. But he was saying too that, this whole compliance stuff, there's all, because everything has been manual for so long, there's these whole different sectors and mini sectors of industries that are there around specialisation around compliance for different elements of these buildings like this.
Totally. I think, the whole property industry, and it's been talked about a lot in terms of how much penetration technology has in the property sector. And I think that's why it's so exciting that there are associations like PropTech Australia, the PropTech New Zealand, and then others around the world starting to spin up, because it talks to the real it talks to the maturing of the market and just how open people are to say, yes, we believe that technology can start to help us with these workflows. There's a huge amount of opportunity in this space. Yeah,
fantastic. So do you think that in time Tell Frankie is going to start to actually impact on property valuation? Like whether, I guess knowing the history of property maintenance and management and how that's gone, which you're capturing through the reporting, or through, you're capturing that both through the data and also the communication side of it and the IP of what's happened. Is that going to act up almost like a log book for a building?
I think yet to be determined, right. But I can see the connection there. Yeah. So I think we're at its core, it should solve the operational workflow problems and make life easier for the operations team or the property team working with contractors. That's the core aim of it. But yeah, I think over time, where we can see the history of the building and see and understand, hey, yep, it's been well maintained over its lifetime, and there have been few operational issues. That talks to the strength of the tenancy-landlord relationship over time. And then I think increasingly we're also seeing some really interesting carbon profiling in the market as well. And that would probably start to come in as well.
So tell me more about the carbon profiling.
Yeah, so I had this great day at the NZGBC Green Summit a few weeks ago, put on by the Property Council here in New Zealand, and it was all around embedded carbon profiles within property. Steel and concrete obviously being large aspects of them, and it's our firm belief, again, we're proving it out over time, but that if you maintain the profile, whether that be a roofing profile or the concrete foundations, you'll see these huge gains in embodied carbon savings over time, because there'll be less replacements and less, the building products should last longer.
Right, got it. If you're a real estate agent, you know you need to do more digital marketing, and that includes creating articles, blogs, emails, and landing pages. But that's a lot to learn, and it can be really hard. So check out Activepipe. Activepipe is a specialist digital marketing platform designed especially for real estate agents. It allows you to quickly and easily create engaging emails, including the ability to drag and drop properties into emails that you can send out to buyers, sellers, renters, anyone. Activepipe's smart automation allows you to get more leads from your database by understanding the property journey of your contacts and automatically customising and personalising emails based on their preferences. And now with the new product, Real Estate Content, you get access to hundreds of stories written about the property market that answer common questions your clients have about how to buy and sell and market performance. So download Activepipe's free white paper, The Scalable Agent. It's got everything you need to know about how to become a better digital marketer. And it's written by me, Kylie Davis. Go to activepipe.com.au or Google The Scalable Agent. So if I'm a property owner, if I'm a landlord and I've got a property owner and I have all of my properties sitting using a product like Tell Frankie, in the next 5 years, how am I going to be ahead, or how am I going to be stronger? What's my advantage going to be over someone who is still doing it the old way?
Time.
Right?
Time and revenue. I think the key thing that so Uber was a fascinating company to work for in the sense of it said, okay, what do we need to do to empower drivers to increase their earnings, to have an easier access to jobs and bookings across the city when they wanted them and when they wanted to work. I think there's a huge opportunity from a property manager's perspective and an efficiency gain to look after more properties and increase the size of their own business if you've got tools to do more. At the moment, it's hyper manual. There are spreadsheets or paper forms that you have to fill out all the time. And we just ask the question: what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could? Open it up, open the same task, and get exactly the same information through a link on your phone? Yeah.
Or everyone's like, yes, no, you should definitely do that. That's awesome.
Totally, absolutely. And
or would you like to hire 3 more people?
Yeah. Well, it comes down to you can hire those 3 more people, absolutely, because now you're doing and looking after 500 properties as opposed to 50 properties.
Yeah.
Which is awesome for any business.
Yeah, fantastic. So what's the competitive landscape like? I mean, I haven't heard a lot around PropTech in the industrial space. Now, that might be that I'm a little bit behind the times, but what's the competitive landscape like?
So I think competition exists absolutely everywhere. There are a number of American players in the market, and then a lot of the accounting softwares. I'm going to start again. So I think competition exists everywhere, which is absolutely fantastic. And through organisations like PropTech Australia, we're starting to see some awesome technology come through. The exciting thing is that because this space is so open, there are a whole range of different opportunities for different companies to learn from each other. And so we've been inspired by other similar companies. There've been players like Upkeep in the US. We've got Maximo from IBM. Yep. We've got the likes of Beams here in New Zealand, which has been operating for a long time, and even released as well here in New Zealand. It's just everyone's understanding that there's this big opportunity to help people do more in less time.
And are all of those guys specifically in industrial, or are they kind of broader?
Way broader, which is really interesting. More in the office and retail space.
Yeah, okay. And we're seeing that, aren't we? That we're seeing that tech is sort of going, an inch wide and a mile deep in being specific around things, but then linking up to other platforms that can provide the adjacent services in the same kind of inch wide, mile deep expertise level.
Totally, and that's the very cool thing is it's just fascinating to see what else is out there in the market. The marketplace in Australia is super interesting from a residential property perspective. Just very blown away by what they've done over there.
Yeah. So what do you think? So in this industrial space that you guys are specifically in, what do you think the future holds for that, Georgie? Where do you see it going?
Well, so industrial is the backbone of a city. So it's a really fascinating asset class. And there are a few different trends that we see in the market, both globally and then in Australia and New Zealand as well. There's the obvious one of the rise of e-commerce. So cloud kitchens being located closer to the city fringe so that you can dispatch more parcels to homes and apartment buildings is a huge one. And then for Western economies, we're looking at needing to rebuild a lot of the core infrastructure in cities. I don't know what it's like over in Sydney at the moment, but in New Zealand we've got some water infrastructure to do. We've got roading, rail. In the States, it's Biden's been very bullish on an infrastructure plan. So I just think it's going to be a really fascinating industry to just essentially participate in and assist.
Yeah, well, Sydney was built on a system of kangaroo trails. So, yeah, a little bit like Auckland, I think. So.
Yeah. Well,
not necessarily kangaroos, but like goat tracks off to certain areas. And then suddenly a whole city turned up. So, yeah.
Totally. Well, most of the roading network in Africa is actually old elephant migration lines.
There you go.
So, yeah, they built the roads on top of the elephant tracks, unfortunately, which is not good for the elephants because they have long memories.
I know, and they don't necessarily go in a straight line. So really lots of stuff going on in the industrial space where we're seeing, I guess, improved efficiency, improved infrastructure, a lot more, I'm imagining a lot more environmental and green and energy efficiency elements coming in, which add to the complexity of building management.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we're really excited about for the future of Frankie. We're just pumped. Starting a company and working in an operational environment just gives you the opportunity to experiment with our customers, their contractors, on what the right maintenance mix is, what reporting they need to see, starting to think about, hey, what do we need to do to represent carbon profiles, experiment with mechanical engineers on process heat. It's just a huge, wide open space. Yeah. And I think that's what we're super excited about. Okay.
So how many people are in the team now?
So we've got about 5.
Awesome. Okay. No, that's not bad for your first year. That's a good sign. And so what does the future look like for Tell Frankie or for Frankie?
I think just that. So we're excited about expanding and continuing to build out our product to service industrial property portfolios here in New Zealand. We have global ambitions, so we're excited to get over to Australia and the US. The jab is super exciting, so if we can get vaccinated and then head out into the rest of the world, it'll be very exciting.
Are you working on any factories that are creating vaccines?
No, sadly. I think so. The brilliant thing is Australia has a number of factories where you are producing the vaccine, but I don't think there are any. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I may sort of get in trouble for this, but I don't think we've got any here in New Zealand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know that. No.
Australia's been very kind with vaccination treaties to New Zealand and the Pacific Islands. It's been great, but we just need more of them.
Just need more. They need to crank it up. Look, Georgie, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, and I'm so fascinated. I'm so excited also to see a woman working in sort of, I guess, a very blokey area of industrial PropTech as well. So that's great as well.
Thank you. I'm just about to head out for beers with a bunch of guys, so it should be quite a good evening.
Awesome. Well, it is part of the job description, isn't it, in PropTech?
Oh, definitely. That's where you get the most creative ideas.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. Best of luck with Frankie, and thanks for being on the PropTech podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
So that was Georgie Fenwicke from Tell Frankie, a new property and facilities management platform that specialises in the unique needs of industrial properties. I'm going to confess that I never really thought about the importance and issues that industrial properties face. When something goes wrong, it's not just the inconvenience of something in the building not working, it's the fact that can impact on production, on stock quality, on logistics and profit, and that can have huge flow-on effects to other businesses. So it's great to see a bespoke piece of tech being built to reduce the pain points for landlords, property managers and tenants in industrial, which in turn I imagine is only going to improve property value. So great work, Georgie and the Tell Frankie team. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech podcast, I'd love you to tell your friends. Drop me a line either via email, LinkedIn or Facebook. Or you can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor and Apple iTunes. And we're coming up to our 13,000th download, which is not too bad for such a niche space. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins, and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Direct Connect, making moving easy, Smidge Wines, exclusive wines made in limited quantities and available only via the cellar door at smidgewines.com, and Activepipe, helping you make engaging content for your email marketing. Now, do you run a PropTech business or are you the founder of a PropTech? Well, make sure you join the PropTech Association. It's Australia's new not-for-profit association made up of tech people who are passionate about the property industry and committed to improving experiences in how we buy, sell, rent, manage, design, build and finance property. Joining will give you access to events and networks across Australia and globally that will help you promote and grow your business. Go to proptechassociation.com.au. Thanks so much, everyone. Until next week, keep on PropTeching.